in the ancient snake church guarded by one of her nobles. In fact, this very sigil and Metta's head both are eerily similar to the anatomical depiction of a womb. Not to mention the depictions of presumably her and the swaddling cloth upon the weapon of her serpentine minion, the godskin peeler, which is a representation of Aphrodite or Venus, the goddess of love and fertility. But we also see this theme repeated in the veiled maidens, who I refer to as the maidens of the cycle, or sacrificial maidens, who were born to die. We find them in their youth, and in their death, at places of life and places of death, as youth within places of death, and even coddling new life. We find them in their youth, and in their death, at places of life and places of death, as youth within places of death, and even coddling new life, much like we find the eternal maiden Marika holding Mesmer, and who also takes the form of both the sigil of life and the sigil of death. Another veiled motherly maiden is of course Fia, a veiled sacrificial deathbed maiden who gestates a great rune in her womb, giving Godwyn new life, much like the Amber Egg or God Womb does for us and Renala's children, and Bok, technically. This process and the importance of it is something I will be exploring in depth in my next long-form video. But for now, suffice to say that the role of the Miranda flower in this cycle is second to none. Even Fia, the prime example of the capacity of a womb to gestate a great rune, is complemented with the iconography of a Miranda on her back. It's a Miranda spear that we see wielded by the imposing statues of this mysterious female in Lanedell, representing her divine authority and power, adorning the regal flower motifs of the Queen's bedchamber, on the very flags of Lanedell, and on the deceased figure of Elphael, shriveled and dead like the one wielding it. And of particular importance, it bears a striking resemblance to the gold sewing needle of Radagon, whose talisman shows him sprouting these same flowers. As its file name would suggest, the rune-eating flower is a powerhouse of a vessel, and one recognized for its capacity to both contain and conduct the benedictions of the heavens in the form of spears of light, the very features seen in the progeny of the sacrificial tree maiden, such as the conjoining of these concepts in Melina, a sacrificial maiden who casts both bloom and minor Erdtree blessing, and whose spirit becomes a minor Erdtree after death. Some even theorizing her body became a tree after her original physical death, like the remains of the Jar Shaman, who otherwise may have become these tree guardians. Saints made from sinners, who are already said to be part tree. Or like the Empyrean blood burgeons and the growth of the Halig tree fueled by Empyrean blood, or the grandmother of the flowery shaman village and her tree, and so on. It's both the power she can wield and thus disperses upon death, and the progeny or scions that she produces, that are the bounty of the rune-eating flower, of the sacrificial maiden. The womb and its bounty are depicted in Elden Ring as jars, wielded by these very maidens who would be the foundations of the civilizations they were a part of in each age, or cycle. The jar is in essence a gestation chamber, like the womb, as we see with the Jar Shaman and their flower crucible. And to extend upon this, what we see depicted as the blessing of the Erdtree is in essence life, just in a purified or basic form, that which comes from the womb. I believe this is presented to us as both in-game text, as well as contextually and through environmental storytelling. And man, I was having a great time exploring these wonders until I realized Miyazaki trapped me into writing a hit piece on a character so beloved it would surely induce a mass madness proc. And yet, here I am. It's that smile. It's that goddamn smile. And so you can imagine how giddy I was when I noticed while I was taking shots for another video that the landmass for the Church of Vows looks suspiciously like a larval tear. And what's more, the church itself at a bird's eye view looks like a jug like the ones depicted being held by these maidens representing their womb and the bounty within. In fact, it's a jug that is made in the likeness of the female reproductive system, with astonishing accuracy, with Muriel in one of the ovaries, and a Nox statue in the uterus, surrounded by water like an amniotic sac. If we extend upon this, then the bounty of the church representing the union which assured Rani's birth spilling out as roads linking aspects
World game. If you were on YouTube and were into Geometry Dash 5, 6, 7 years ago, you've most likely seen his videos before. World Game is a YouTuber whose content primarily revolves around this challenge of beating Geometry Dash levels while blindfolded. It was believable when he was completing beginner levels like Stereo Madness or Bass After Bass. Before long, he reached Club Step, one of only 3 demon main levels in the game. He posted his failed attempts in 2018, showing that he's attempted the level blindfolded over 500,000 times, and the video garnered over 5 million views on YouTube. And 5 years later, in late 2023, he posted a video of him completing the challenge. It took him over 2 million attempts. But that achievement began to collapse earlier this year, as a YouTuber named Treble PKGD published an expose video on him, alleging that World Game's blindfolded completions were not genuinely performed live while blindfolded. Instead, the video points to what the creator claims are video masking and compositing techniques, where successful gameplay footage without a blindfold was layered under footage of World Game wearing a blindfold. The video highlights a number of visual inconsistencies, including signs of editing around the edges of the screen and unusual hand movements. These are not patterns that you would see in a real and raw gameplay footage. Rather, it was more plausible that the video has a masked overlay over both his hands and screen. Treble's video explains this more in depth, so go check that out if you want even more evidence of the video maskings used by World Game. "It's like finding out Santa Claus isn't real," said a commenter, and it's a sentiment shared by most of the GD community who believed that these videos were legitimate. I know I did. But there are parts of the community questioning how everyone else believed it was real in the first place. Miss Q Gemini. One of the most infamous and honestly hilarious streamer caught cheating moments revolves around a CSGO streamer known as Miss Q Gemini. In June 2017, she was streaming a competitive CSGO match on Inferno when she accidentally exposed her cheat software live on Twitch. Before the round began, she opened up a hacking program and enabled wall hacks right in front of her viewers. When she realized the chat saw it, she panicked and tried to explain it away, first claiming it was a glitch in the game.
Yo, you guys, do you guys ever get that weird glitch in CSGO where it shows your rank, that it shows everyone's rank?
Then blaming Clara for putting the cheat on her computer.
Wait, what the fuck? Clara!
To absolutely no one's surprise, not a single person bought her excuse. The consequences were pretty severe. First, her Steam account was VAC banned for cheating, which restricts access to online multiplayer for that game. Then, her Twitch presence essentially vanished after that. Her channel was taken down. She briefly resurfaced under a new name, but then largely disappeared from the community. Since then, she's had very little presence online, with her original Twitch gone and only occasional old videos elsewhere. The goofiest part about all this is that this is how her gameplay looks with wall hacks on.
Follow, welcome to the Dumpling Empire. Oh shit, I just saw one. Construction, watch out, purple. Oh shit. Ah, fuck, I just right. my god, I'm stupid, dude!
Mr. Golds. Back in August 2020, a popular Twitch streamer known as Mr. Golds, who was broadcasting to nearly 2,000 viewers, was boasting about how skilled he was at Warzone.
Have you ever seen anyone playing like this? Like seriously?
While showing his PC's task manager on the screen, and somehow he didn't notice his cheats menu that was visible on screen, right under his task manager, showing options from a program called Engine Owning, a known cheat tool for shooters like Warzone, with the Aim at Enemies option turned on, which means he was aimbotting. The clip spread quickly after one of the viewers shared it on Twitter, and once the video circulated, his streaming account was banned from the platform. While it's unclear whether the ban was permanent, Mr. Gold's main channel disappeared, and he lost the presence he once had in the Warzone community. He later uploaded an apology video on his YouTube channel, but it's now deleted, and if you were to try and find it on YouTube, you'd only find reaction videos on it. And even the reactors understand he weren't really sorry about cheating. He's sorry that he got caught, and while bragging about his so-called skill, too, which makes it all the more ironic. Not only that, the chat when Mr. Golds accidentally showed his cheats menu didn't even notice it. They were saying random stuffs like, "What's good, you're on," or "Hello, let's start this thing." And his chat were moving relatively slowly for a stream with almost 2,000 viewers on it, which some people suggest are signs that most of his numbers are botted. Captain Baldy. This one is very similar to Mr. Gold's case. In August 2021, while Captain Baldy was broadcasting a Warzone session, viewers and other community members began to suspect something was wrong with his gameplay. His aim and hit behavior looked unnatural to experienced players. Popular Warzone content creator JGod even spotted questionable hit markers and called attention to it on Twitter. During the stream, viewers in chat asked Captain Baldy to open Task Manager to show he wasn't running any cheat software.
Task Manager? Yo, they want my Task Manager? Hold up.
Trying to prove his innocence, he obliged, but before he did that, one of his teammates said, "Nah, use Control-Alt-Delete."
Nah, Control-Alt-Delete.
Control-Alt-Delete?
He listened to him and opened the cheat control panel for engine owning, the same one used by Mr. Golds, which clearly revealed wall hacks, aim assist, and other hacks active on his PC. That menu was visible on screen for everyone watching because he got tricked by the guy telling him to press Control-Alt-Delete. That moment was comedically perfect, which helped the clip spread quickly across social media and through the Warzone community as well. Within that same stream, Activision banned his Warzone account, and Twitch followed a few hours later with a ban from the platform for violating its policies against cheating and unfair gameplay. In the aftermath, Captain Baldy claimed in public posts that he had been cheating to prove a point about how rampant hacks were in Warzone and how easy it is to do so and get away with, but that defense did little to save his accounts. Regardless of intention, he used cheating software and was caught doing so. Dream. Dream is one of the biggest names in Minecraft, and on his prime, he is the Minecraft YouTuber. In late 2020, Dream livestreamed several Minecraft Java Edition 1.16 any% random seed speedruns and submitted one of his best times to speedrun.com. The accusation was first made by another speedrunner who noticed that his runs had extraordinarily high drop rates for key items like ender pearls and blaze rods, far beyond what Minecraft's random mechanics should allow. After a 2-month investigation and a detailed statistical analysis, speedrun.com's team concluded that the only reasonable explanation was that the game had been modified during those runs, and his submission was removed from the official leaderboards. They said that the odds of anyone in the Minecraft speedrunning community would ever get luck comparable to Dream's was at most 1 in 7.5 trillion. Mathematician content creator Stand Up Maths even did an analysis video of his own and found out that the odds of what Dream's luck did was 1 in 20 sextillion. Dream initially denied the allegations, even disputing the math and arguing publicly on Twitter that he had done nothing wrong. He at one point hired a statistician to support his claim that the outcomes could occur naturally, who argued that the odds are a more likely 1 in 10 million. But months later, Dream admitted that a mod was active during about 6 of his speedrunning sessions, which was used to enhance his Minecraft manhunt and challenge videos to make it more entertaining. He said he didn't realize the mod was active during those speedruns and felt an extreme sense of guilt when he discovered it. After he discovered that he accidentally had his mods active in 6 Twitch streams, he apologized and deleted his response statement. Dream has expressed his wish to move forward with his career, continuing to speedrun Minecraft in a fair manner, and today, most parties have moved on from what happened.
Super fast jellyfish.
Superfast Jellyfish was a Super Mario 64 speedrunner and streamer who tried to make a name for himself by attempting to complete the game blindfolded, which is a highly challenging subcategory of speedrunning that only a handful of runners have ever legitimately accomplished. Instead of using a legit blindfold setup, he used a see-through blindfold, making it obvious to some in the community that he could actually see the screen while blindfolded. The situation drew major attention when YouTuber CharlieBrown64 uploaded a video titled "Obvious Cheater Fakes Blindfolded Super Mario 64 Speedrun." In that video, CharlieBrown64 broke down the gameplay and pointed out numerous inconsistencies with how a real blindfolded run should look, including how quickly and casually Superfast Jellyfish reacted to game events he shouldn't have been able to see. One of the examples is when Superfast Jellyfish jumped on a rotating platform with a one-up block in the middle. He somehow knows exactly where it is, jumped on it, and also somehow knew the direction of where the one-up was going, albeit he didn't end up getting it. He does put an effort to try and look like he's actually doing this blindfolded, unconvincingly of course, by purposely falling off platforms. But even when he tries that, he still somehow stops moving at the perfect time, preventing him from falling off the platform he intended to fall on. The video went viral and racked up millions of views, drawing strong reactions from the speedrunning community. After being called out, Superfast Jellyfish responded with an apology where he admitted he had faked his blindfolded speedrun on purpose, claiming it was meant to be deceptive, which only increased the backlash. His apology video was heavily disliked, with the dislike ratio reaching over 95% before it's gone from YouTube. Either he deleted his account, deleted the video, or privated it. I think he deleted his account. The controversy deeply damaged his reputation within the Super Mario 64 community, and after the exposure and backlash, Superfast Jellyfish largely disappeared from streaming and speedrunning. Space UK. Space UK was once considered one of the best Geometry Dash players at the time. He beat many of the hardest levels in existence and rose to the top of the competitive demon list. In late 2020 and throughout 2021 through 2022, he racked up impressively low attempt counts, completed near impossible demons like the Golden, Slaughterhouse, Aerial Gleam, Abyss of Darkness, and even claimed records on Kyoki that few others could match. He even claimed the first victor of some of those levels. But in April 2023, a head Demon List moderator, Paco, uploaded a video exposing Space UK, in which he pointed out plenty of mismatches between click sounds and on-screen inputs, and suspicious behavior in multiple high-difficulty level recordings. Space UK then confessed on Twitter that he had used a bot called Zbot for every major completion after his Sephiroth main list finish in May 2022, admitting he had lost interest and wanted to see how far he could go without being caught. Further investigation revealed that the cheating went far deeper than initially claimed. The same Zbot usage watermark and out-of-sync click patterns appeared in recordings going back as far as March 2021, indicating that many of his biggest accomplishments were not legitimate. And because the levels he beat are so extremely hard, it is only natural to have a visceral reaction upon beating those levels. So his older, fake reactions were revisited by the community, like this one.
I can't fucking react, otherwise I'm gonna cough so much.
Once this came to light, Space UK deleted his YouTube channel and deactivated his social media, and his profile was banned from the Demon List, with many of his falsified verifications and first victor titles stripped and reassigned to legitimate players. Space UK later made a return and has posted some legitimate completions in 2025, but that won't be what people will remember his name for. FaZe Jarvis. I talked about him in another video before this, but since it's relevant to today's topic, I'm going to talk about him again. Jarvis was a pretty well-known figure in the Fortnite community. He had millions of subscribers on YouTube and was a member of FaZe Clan, one of the best and most popular organization for content creators. One day, Jarvis decided to use an aimbot while playing Fortnite, record it, and post it online as content. Unlike the others on this list, he didn't even try to hide it or pass it off as his skills. He genuinely thought because he used an alt account that his main account wouldn't get repercussions, even though he intentionally recorded himself using cheats for everyone to see. But Epic Games saw it as blatant cheating and struck the ban hammer on Jarvis, permanently banning him from Fortnite. In Epic Games' word, "We have a zero-tolerance policy for the usage of cheat software. When people use aimbots or other cheat technologies to gain an unfair advantage, they ruin games for people who are playing fairly." Jarvis then posted an apology video on his channel, saying that he didn't think about the consequences that could happen when making that video, and that he only thought about entertaining his viewers. Jarvis lost access to all things Fortnite. He couldn't play it, he couldn't make content on it, his reputation in the gaming community took a massive blow. But Jarvis didn't disappear. He found a way to pivot the direction of his YouTube channel. He shifted away from gaming content, mostly focusing on boxing content. And by early 2025, he was officially unbanned from Fortnite and is now back on making Fortnite videos. Heroes Update. In my previous video on this subject, I mentioned level 16 as the vocal point on Supercell's recent greedy move while mentioning the Heroes Update on the side. I quit the game a long time ago before the addition of these two things, and I'm glad I did that, because what the hell are these heroes' abilities? Heroes are powerful units with unique abilities and mechanics meant to shake up the meta. It's like a juiced up version of EVOs, but instead of excitement, the feature hit like a bomb. The official trailer amassed record dislike count on YouTube, and so does every other videos the official Clash Royale YouTube account makes about heroes. Players for years had tolerated changes like evolutions and higher level caps, but heroes crossed the line. It was just too much. The way you unlock a hero is by collecting 200 hero fragments from hero boxes. You can get lucky and instantly unlock a hero if your hero box is a 5-star, which is very rare, or your hero box turns out to be a 2-star, which is how it usually is, giving you around 2 to 5 fragments depending on your box level. You get 5 of these from the free pass each season. You can imagine how long it takes for an average free-to-play player to unlock these compared to pay-to-win players. Plus, there are 2 hero slots which are shared with champions, so even after you finally unlock one, you'll still be outgunned facing opponents with 2 of these monsters. And if you weren't convinced on just how unbalanced these heroes are, this is Molite, a 3-time Clash Royale world champion and the consensus GOAT of Clash Royale. And this is what the best Clash Royale player has to say about heroes.
Bro, the balance team need to get shot in the head, I'm not gonna lie. Every single one of them.
Yikes. War Robots. War Robot started out as a free-to-play mech shooter where you pilot giant robots in team battles. But over the years, a growing part of the community began to see the game as increasingly monetized and tilted toward players willing to spend money. A common complaint from players who feels the game is pay to win is that those who spend real money can buy powerful robots, weapons, upgrades, and resources much faster than free players, who only get free daily spins, which gives weak rewards. The strength discrepancy between spenders and free players is so wide that free-to-play player reviews describe their experience as being a cannon fodder against heavily upgraded spenders. New, overpowered robots and weapons are introduced regularly, and these are either very expensive or only realistically obtainable through buying resources or items with money. This has become even more apparent ever since My Games bought War Robots, expanding the prominence of luck-based loot boxes and gambling mechanics, making them even more prominent in the game's progression. There's also frustration with matchmaking, where some players feel they're frequently matched against much stronger opponents because those opponents paid for better gear, making free-to-play progression even more unfair. Some fans argue that everything can technically be earned through play, but even then, many concede that spending accelerates progression significantly. The meta is defined by broken and expensive bots and weapons that are introduced every season, and when these broken stuff becomes accessible to free players, it gets nerfed and stomped to the ground by newer and stronger weapons. Nintendo Switch 2 pricings. When Nintendo Switch 2 launched in June 2025, it came with a ludicrous price tag that shocked many gamers. The base console was set at around $450, making it Nintendo's most expensive console launch in decades when adjusted for inflation. The backlash really hit when Nintendo revealed that some of its first-party games, like Mario Kart World, would sell for about $80 digital and up to $90 physical, which is a significant jump from the traditional $50 to $60 prices people were used to. Many people attribute this as pure greed, especially because the price is arbitrary and not clearly tied to extra value, something that even analysts think Nintendo does just because they think they can. Even more ridiculous about this is the fact that Nintendo is selling its Welcome Tour launch software separately for about $10 instead of bundling it with the console. Mind you, this is a basic tutorial, a tech showcase that teaches the player how to use
From Software is a game company that is a little bit popular, and their style of games is one of the few styles that other studios try to imitate so often that it has become an entire genre of its own, the Souls-like genre. And while it is very rare that we get one that people consider to be on the level of a From Software game, we've gotten a variety of games that put a unique spin on the genre to varying levels of success. We have a Souls-like, but it has guns. We have a Souls-like, but it has bugs. We have a but it has guns. We have a Souls-like, but it has bugs. We have a Souls-like, but it has Jedi. We have a Souls-like, but it has fat anime honkers. Code Vein is one of the more popular Souls-likes, and while others are either renowned or heavily criticized with very few in between, most of what people have to say about Code Vein is, it's aight. The character creator is good though. You very rarely get someone saying it's a masterpiece, and although it is more common, you still don't hear people saying it's trash super often either. But you didn't click on this video to hear what some Steam reviewer said or how much a game journalist disliked its fan service. You clicked on this video to hear the opinion of some guy who barely uses Steam. A quick explanation of how this review will go before we begin. This review will be split into 3 separate videos. One video for the early game, one for the mid game, and one for the late game. In each video, I will rate the areas based on 4 criteria and give them an overall score. Hey, editor Soren here. I realized as I was editing the video, I forgot to explain the categories. So real quick, I'm rating exploration based off of how exploring the area itself felt. Was it fun? Was it mid? Was it bad? For bosses, I'm ranking all factors.
Slaughter. The all-hearing slaughtered. But alas, it was for naught. But all you need do is snatch it from the big pot. Pity the poor, poor fool. You, please, you're...
Hello. What should I need to do? I knew something would be here. Magical. Oh. Yeah, bro. I'm stupid.
That could go into enjoyment of the boss, whether that be the lore of the boss, the fight itself, the area, anything. For story, I am counting just the story told within the area so that it doesn't get complicated with where does one area's story stop and another begin. For vibes, that's just the vibes of the area, the design, the lighting, just the mood overall. And the total score, I then weight each category, do some math stuff to it, then I get a score, and I round that number, and then that's the total score. Now, with that preamble out of the way, we can begin with the first area of the game, the ruined city underground. Having been forced to go searching for blood beads, the dwindling and only substitute for human blood to keep revenants sane, I am pushed down into an underground area where we need to fight for the loss, which, as all of so kindly shows us, is what happens to revenants, how we fight in this. Having a demonstration of what happens if we don't walk in, we continue on another revenant. We agreed to come up with them for a short time, just long enough for him to see anime protagonist powers and put an end to all of these demonstrations. This fight is the only boss fight that I use to compare, so it isn't quite the same comparison to the rest of the bosses, but the best way to describe it is fuck. He's essentially just a large enemy with a boss health bar. Oh, also, I will get into the exact ramifications of this decision later on. But I have decided to have this run be companion system that it is intended to be used, where you will have an NPC companion follow you along and help you out. I have decided to forego that companion for this run. So, for the rating of the tutorial area, I will give the story a 7 out of 10. It is a somewhat clunky area. The exposition dumps are not exactly subtle, but it does a good job of hooking you into the world. The exploration will get a 5 out of 10. There isn't much exploration to be had. It's a relatively small area. The vibes, I will give a 6 out of 10. Dark caverns and ruined underground buildings are not exactly captivating vibe materials. Boss, I'll give a 5 out of 10. Oliver is slow, it's relatively hard, and it's overall a rather straightforward starting boss. Overall, I will give the area a 6 out of 10. After we take Oliver down, we notice an ominous glowing block called a vestige that Louis tells us not to touch or we'll turn into a monster. So of course we immediately touch it. Luckily for us though, we are the protagonist and we can just tank that shit, giving us a peek into the memories of whoever that vestige belonged to. In this case, Oliver. After we are done walking in a straight line, Louis takes us back to his little base in the apocalypse that is upsettingly nicer than any place I have ever lived in, where we get to meet a scantily dressed woman, grumpy old man, absurd proportions, and skin tight. Louis then explains to me. He noticed that all of the springs that blood beads grow on sprout from underground veins, and he hopes to trace them to their source to find a continuous supply of blood beads. Once you agree to join him, you immediately head out to the second area of the game. Returning to Oliver's boss arena, you push onward through some more underground areas until you surface in the ruined city center, pushing through abysmal Dark Souls 2 reminiscent enemy placement. We end up smelling human blood and running into a Rata-esque revenant. Shout out to any Grimgar fans, who tells us to piss off and leave the human to him. Louis, being the pretty boy he is, decides to follow and try and save him. So we go through even more abysmally placed enemies that reward the shortcut and even misplaced enemies. After slowly clearing out the Evangelist Convention, Raging Noble Convention, we finally convinced Ronta and the human. As we're preparing to fight Ronta for the human, the boss of the end of year's end. I don't think it's crazy to say that this isn't an emphatic and it is impressive. After that, it would be safe to worry about how the rest of the bosses certainly aren't on the level of any crazy from software bosses. The butterfly shows that there'll at least be more interesting fights that require some thought and proper. Of course, this is all I'd imagine things would get a lot easier and less competitive, which is why I decided to go without. Once you scare off Ronta and convince the human to get to safety. With that plot point, we are conveniently also at a blood spring. We are tested and further into the third area. For this area, I give the story a 5. There isn't much overarching story, pretty much just the mini plot line with Ronta and the human. Exploration is it is pure Gang City, and the last third with the broken building area is especially bad. The vibes get a 5. It's a rather uninteresting post-apocalyptic ruined city. Not much to say there. Boss fight gets a 6. It's a nice fight, kind of challenging with no companions, and maybe play slightly more carefully. It's also where I started to realize this game is just Dark Souls 2, and I should play it in a similar way. The total score for this area is a 5. Making our way through yet another underground passage, we come out the other side of dried up trenches, an area that, as it implies, looks like a dried up seabed. As we're looking around, we spot another message and decide to pick it up. This one belongs to Louis, who walks through his memories of his time spent with the crews, his schoolmate, friend, and also the queen that brought about the collapse of society we find ourselves in. We find out not only was from a botched experience on the cruise, but that Louis saw her descent and couldn't bring himself to kill her even when she begged him to, resulting in her losing control and eventually killing both Louis and his sister. Leaving the memory, Louis says he is doing all of this to atone for being unable to stop Cruz, to which Yakumo responds by saying, "Quit wallowing, pretty boy." We begin making our way through a maze of narrow corridors, surprise attacks, and of course, ganks. Not long after, we reach the second checkpoint, and all we have to do is cross this little bridge, right? You'd be forgiven for thinking this is just a normal bridge. What this actually is, though, is a gateway to hell, because the moment you cross the bridge, you will have approximately 1 Napoleonic brigade firing down the gate as you are also rushed by spearmen, and they don't exactly get going. So dying from this one area more times than I'd like to admit, I eventually fight my way past and get lost. Entering the arena, we are greeted by a pitbull named continuing the trend from Butterfly, while the spot isn't anything crazy, I do like the emphasis on placement, where you are rewarded with circling or dodging, and punished if you stay in front of it and throw away. Once it is best of you get one fat cock. We test the direction the vein is flowing, and it's flowing back the way we came. Before we have time to think about it much, though, we hear singing and approach it to find 2 people, a woman that has 2 similarities to Io, and a man pulling some kind of contraption out of a body. The woman continues to sing as the man stabs the device into the woman's chest and blood pours out? I think it's blood. It's not exactly the right color, but I don't really know what other fluid would come spraying out of a woman's chest. We get ready for a fight, but the man and woman disappear before we can get to them, leaving just the disintegrated body of a nameless man behind. For this area, I will give the story an 8. I love the world building and backstory of this game. Even to this day, this area is where we start to really learn about what happened before and how did the world get to the point it is. Exploration, I will give a 6. A lot of narrow ledges, and the bridge exists. Other than that, it's a fine. 5s, a 6. Kind of boring, everything kind of the same color, despite it having coral reefs around. I feel like you have a colorful, beautiful area, but this area is like unsaturated red. The boss is a 7. It's a really fun boss. I like the positional aspects of it, and it's slightly less annoying than the butterfly. so it gets a higher score. The total area score is a 6. After everything that just happened, we head back to base and decide to check out the other Bloodvein lead we have. Returning to the city center, but this time going down to a pit that feels like a mix of the Lanedale sewers leading to the Frenzied Fingers and Blighttown, we drop down and are brought to the Howling Pit, a giant underground cavern with knee-deep water covering everything. It's dark, empty, and overall kinda boring to explore. It's just a cycle of wading through water, finding a few enemies, killing them, and then repeating. Eventually, we make it to a halfway point where we find another Bloodvein, and we find out leads right back to where we came from again. But more importantly, we're introduced to why.
What a day. You look lonely. I can fix that.
Conflict almost arises, but her little brother Nicola steps in and we end up giving him a blood bead and the siblings leave. We ain't about to let wife be out all on her own though, so we decide to follow after them. The second half of the area is a bit more interesting to explore. The areas are slightly smaller and have deep water insta-kill zones, so there's less running around through empty space. There's even a bit of good old Dark Souls, find a key somewhere else to open this door style progression. A few more levers pulled and doors open and we begin to approach the edge of the cavern, but we hear the voice of that man and Mia calling out to Nicola. We rush to the scene, but it's too late. Mia kneeling in front of a pile of ash. Then Finn appears and begins serving. It's super so evil Hatsune Miku. Dang! Ooh. I gotta keep something close here. Post here. Miku is a pretty fun fight, punishing bad positioning and healing from a distance, with a slow debuff building up with each hit, making it a pretty exciting and punishing close quarters battle. Once the baddie is down, we return our attention to the grieving Mia. As she sits there, her brother's ashes pouring through her hands, a vestige is revealed. We quickly grab it from her before it can mess her up, and we are transported to Nicola's memories. Here, we see that Nicola awoke as a revenant before, and during that time, she somehow came into contact with Jack. They seem to have come up with a plan that involves Nicola's sacrifice. But Jack doesn't seem to be a bad guy. If anything, to make sure that this is what Nicola wants, maybe there's more to this Jack guy. We just stab him in the chest. We leave the vestige, but Mia has been crazy, so we take her back. Story gets a 7 out of 10. Wife. Exploration, a 6 out of 10. Kinda boring, but never really bad. Vibe gets a 7 out of 10. Dark, gloomy, foggy. Not a bad vibe, but never really able to climb high in the vibe tier list. Boss gets an 8 out of 10. Fun, punishing boss, that gets me absolutely bricked. Total, 7 out of 10. While Mia is unconscious, she has a vision of a snowy mountain and sees Nicola standing outside of some thorny structure. Meanwhile, we are discussing what to do since all of our leads lead back to the beginning. Luckily, Mia, now awake, shows up to tell us there's another pathway we can follow, branching off near the butterfly. How she knows about this area is beyond me, but it helps us a lot. In exchange, Mia wants us to take her to the snowy mountain to search for answers about that vision. Going to the spot Mia mentioned, we kinda touch the statue to drop down the ladder that leads to another blood. After activating it and testing its flow, it's confirmed that all the blood have been flowing in this direction. And this one is flowing through, you guessed it, another underground passage. Other end of the tunnel, we come across the most controversial area in Code Vein. The area that, when there is a discussion on it almost always comes up. The area that no Code Vein player will ever forget. And in my opinion, one of the most visually striking areas in any Souls-like, or even any FromSoft game, for that matter. But, though I'm sure you're dying to know what literally the most well-known area of Code Vein is, that is where the video will end for today. In order to have this great mystery resolved, you'll have to tune back in next time for the second
Content warning. This video discusses serious crimes involving minors. Viewer discretion advised. Amarjit Sada, age 7 to 8. In 2007, a village in Bihar, India, was shaken by a discovery that would make global headlines. 8-year-old Amarjit Sada was arrested by police for the murder of 3 infants. He became known as the world's youngest serial killer, a title that still haunts criminal psychology to this day. Amarjit Sada was born in 1998 in the village of Mushahar, one of Bihar's most impoverished areas. His parents were daily laborers who struggled to feed their large family. Poverty was extreme. Opportunities were non-existent. Life was a daily fight for survival. In 2006, when Amarjit was just 7 years old, his aunt came to visit, leaving her infant daughter in the family's care while she went to work in the city. While Amarjit's mother went to the market, she left young Amarjit to watch his baby cousin and his younger sister. What happened next was unthinkable. According to reports, Amarjit harmed the baby, eventually causing her death. He concealed the body in tall grass near the home. When his aunt returned and discovered what happened, the family was devastated. But here's where the story takes an even darker turn. They didn't report it to authorities. In their community, such matters brought shame and could lead to social and economic ruin. The death was covered up, attributed to illness or accident. Months later, Amarjit's own infant sister died under similar circumstances while the family slept. Again, there were suspicions, but the family remained silent. Some members reportedly knew or suspected what Amarjit had done, but these were considered family matters. The cycle of silence continued. It wasn't until 2007 that the outside world learned the truth. A 6-month-old baby named Kushbu disappeared from a local primary school. The community searched frantically. When police investigated, witnesses reported seeing young Amarjit near the school that day. Under questioning, the 8-year-old confessed, not just to Kushbu's death, but to the earlier incidents involving his cousin and sister. Psychologists who evaluated Amarjit described him as showing no understanding of right and wrong. One called him someone who derived satisfaction from causing harm. Others noted he appeared to lack empathy entirely. The International Journal of Indian Psychology published analysis suggesting severe neglect and possible mental illness, though some reports also claimed potential abuse in the home. Indian law presented a unique challenge. Children cannot be sentenced to death or sent to adult prison in India. Amarjit was placed in a juvenile home until age 18. In 2016, when he turned 18, he was released. His current whereabouts are unknown. He was given a new identity and released back into society. The terrifying reality is that no one knows where Amarjit Sada is today. He's in his mid-20s now, living somewhere under a new name. Whether he was rehabilitated during his 10 years in the facility remains unclear. His case raised urgent questions about how to handle children who commit violent acts and whether an 8-year-old can truly be reformed. Jesse Pomeroy, age 12 to 14, December 1874. A Boston courtroom fell silent as a 14-year-old boy stood before the judge. Jesse Pomeroy had just been convicted of murder, becoming the youngest person in Massachusetts history to face a first-degree murder charge. The courtroom was packed. Reporters filled every seat. The entire nation was watching. Because this case forced America to confront an uncomfortable question. Can a child be evil? Jesse Pomeroy was born in 1859 in Charlestown, Massachusetts. From birth, he was different. A medical condition left his right eye covered with white film, giving him an unsettling appearance. Other children mocked him relentlessly. His father, a butcher, was harsh and distant. School became a nightmare of isolation. By age 12, something had changed in Jesse. Between 1871 and 1872, young boys in the Chelsea and South Boston areas began reporting attacks by men. They described being lured to isolated locations with promises of money or adventure. Once alone, they were restrained and harmed. The attacks escalated in severity. 7 different boys came forward with similar stories. What disturbed investigators was the pattern. Each attack showed calculation and planning. This wasn't impulsive childhood aggression. It was something else entirely. Police eventually identified 12-year-old Jesse Pomeroy as the attacker. He confessed readily, showing little emotion. The court sentenced him to a reform school until he turned 18. It seemed like the story was over, but Jesse's mother believed her son deserved a second chance. She lobbied for his early release, and in February 1874, after serving just 17 months, Jesse was free. 6 weeks later, 2 children went missing. In March, 10-year-old Katie Curran vanished after visiting the Pomeroy family's shop. In April, another young child was found deceased. The violence was extreme. Investigators immediately suspected Jesse. When police searched the Pomeroy shop months later, they found Katie Curran's body hidden in the basement. Jesse was arrested and confessed to both deaths. He was 14 years old. The trial became a national sensation. Experts debated whether a child could truly understand the consequences of taking a life. Jesse's lawyers argued he suffered from what was then called moral insanity, an irresistible compulsion he couldn't control. The prosecution painted him as fully aware and calculating. The jury found him guilty. The judge sentenced him to death. At 14, Jesse Pomeroy was the youngest person in Massachusetts to receive a death sentence, but he would never be executed. The governor commuted his sentence to life in prison, where Jesse would spend 41 years in solitary confinement, one of the longest periods anyone has spent in isolation. Jesse Pomeroy died in prison in 1932 at age 72. He'd served 58 years behind bars. Even in his final years, he maintained that something had compelled him to commit his crimes, some force he couldn't name or understand. Modern psychologists who've studied his case believe he may have suffered from conduct disorder or early onset psychopathy, combined with the trauma of severe bullying and possible abuse. Mary Bell, age 10 to 11, May 25th, 1968, Newcastle upon Tyne, England. A 4-year-old boy named Martin Brown was found deceased in an abandoned house. The initial investigation suggested a tragic accident. There were no obvious signs of foul play. The case might have closed there, if not for what happened next. The day after Martin's discovery, someone broke into a nearby nursery school and vandalized it. Among the destruction, police found notes scrawled in crayon. One read, "We did murder Martin Brown." Investigators dismissed it as a sick joke, children playing pranks. But it wasn't a prank. Mary Bell was born in 1957 to a 16-year-old mother who worked in difficult circumstances. From the beginning, Mary's life was marked by severe neglect and concerning treatment. Her mother was frequently absent, leaving Mary in dangerous situations. There were reports of harm that no child should ever endure. By age 10, Mary had become withdrawn, manipulative, and prone to violent outbursts. On May 25th, the day before her 11th birthday, Mary caused Martin Brown's death in that abandoned house. She was so small herself that investigators couldn't initially determine what had happened. It appeared to be an accident or sudden illness. 2 months later, on July 31st, 3-year-old Brian Howard disappeared while playing outside his home. His body was found that evening. This time, the evidence was clear. Someone had harmed him deliberately. Police began interviewing local children. 2 girls kept appearing in the investigation, Mary Bell and her friend Norma Bell, who despite sharing a last name, were not related. Both girls acted strangely during questioning. Norma seemed excited about the investigation. Mary was evasive and showed odd emotional responses. Eventually, Norma told police that Mary had confessed to her about Brian. When confronted, Mary denied everything, but the evidence was building. In December 1968, both girls stood trial. Mary Bell was 11 years old. The courtroom struggled with how to handle a child defendant accused of such serious crimes. The prosecution had to prove that Mary understood the wrongfulness of her actions. The defense argued she was too young to form criminal intent and had suffered such severe mistreatment that her mental state was compromised. After deliberation, the jury found Mary guilty of manslaughter due to diminished responsibility, not murder. Norma was acquitted. Mary was sentenced to be detained at Her Majesty's pleasure, essentially an indefinite sentence. She was sent to a secure facility for young offenders. Mary served 12 years before being released at age 23. She was given a new identity and lifelong anonymity to allow her a chance at rehabilitation. That anonymity has been extended to protect her daughter and granddaughter. What makes Mary's case particularly significant is what it revealed about childhood trauma. Gita Sereni, a journalist who extensively studied the case, found that Mary had been subjected to horrific mistreatment throughout her childhood. She wasn't born violent. She was shaped by circumstances no child should face. Mary Bell's case forced Britain to examine how it treats both child offenders and child victims of mistreatment. Today, Mary Bell lives anonymously somewhere in Britain. According to those who've spoken with her, she doesn't claim to be wrongly convicted and acknowledges that her traumatic childhood doesn't excuse her actions. Robert Thompson and John Venables, age 10, February 12, 1993, Bootle, England. 3-year-old James Bulger was shopping with his mother at the New Strand Shopping Center when he disappeared. Security cameras captured haunting footage, 2 older boys leading a toddler away by the hand. The boys were Robert Thompson and John Venables. They were both 10 years old. What followed was one of the most shocking crimes in British history. The 2 boys led James on a 2.5-mile walk through Liverpool. Dozens of people saw them. Some even asked if the toddler was okay. The boys told them he was their brother, or that they were taking him to the police station. No one intervened. They eventually brought James to a railway line in Walton. There, away from witnesses, they attacked him. The violence was extreme and prolonged. They left his body on the tracks. 2 days later, James's remains were discovered. The nation was horrified. Police reviewed CCTV footage and released images of the 2 boys. Anonymous tips led them to Robert Thompson and John Venables, both of whom had been absent from school that day. During questioning, both boys initially denied involvement. Eventually, under pressure and with evidence mounting, they began admitting to parts of what happened, though each blamed the other for the worst of it. The backgrounds of both boys revealed troubled homes. Robert Thompson came from a family where violence was common. He'd witnessed and experienced severe mistreatment from a young age. John Venables also had a difficult upbringing, though different in nature. Both boys had shown behavioral problems at school. In November 1993, Thompson and Venables stood trial. Because of the severity of the crime, they were tried in an adult court, though accommodations were made for their age. The trial was extraordinarily difficult. The judge, jury, and public struggled with the reality that 10-year-old children had committed such an act. Both were found guilty and sentenced to detention at Her Majesty's pleasure. The judge called it an act of unparalleled evil and barbarity. But determining how long they should serve proved controversial. The original recommendation was 8 years, later increased to 10, which meant they'd be released as teenagers. Public outrage was intense. James Bulger's family was devastated, feeling that justice hadn't been served. But in 2001, when both boys reached age 18, they were released with new identities and lifelong anonymity orders to protect them from vigilante violence. Since then, their paths have diverged. Robert Thompson has reportedly not reoffended and has lived quietly under his new identity. John Venables, however, has been recalled to prison twice, both times for offenses related to inappropriate images of children. His repeated offenses have reignited debates about whether he should have been released in the first place. The James Bulger case remains one of the most analyzed and debated cases in British legal history. It raised fundamental questions. At what age can someone be held fully responsible? Can children who commit such acts be rehabilitated? And how do we balance punishment with the understanding that children's brains are still developing? Craig Price, age 13 to 15, September 5th, 1989, Warwick, Rhode Island. Police responded to a disturbing scene at a family home. Inside, they found 3 victims. The violence was extreme and shocking. The community was terrified. A dangerous killer was on the loose. What police didn't initially realize was that the killer lived just a few houses away, and he was 15 years old. Craig Price was born in 1973 and grew up in the Buttonwoods neighborhood of Warwick. To his neighbors, he seemed like a normal kid. Athletic, involved in sports, generally friendly. He was known as Iron Man because of his size and strength. His teachers described him as bright, but beneath that normal exterior, something was deeply wrong. On July 27, 1987, when Craig was just 13 years old, he committed his first act of violence. His victim was Rebecca Spencer, a 27-year-old mother who lived 2 houses away from the Price family. Craig broke into her home and attacked her. The crime was brutal and appeared motiveless. Police had no suspects. The case went cold. For 2 years, nothing happened. Craig went to school, played sports, and lived what appeared to be a normal teenage life. Then, on September 1st, 1989, he struck again. This time, his victims were the Heaton family, Joan and her 2 young daughters. Craig later admitted he was under the influence of substances when he broke into their home that night. The breakthrough came 4 days later. Police noticed that Craig had an injury on his hand, which he claimed was from an unrelated accident. A search of his home revealed concerning evidence. Under questioning, Craig confessed, not just to the Heaton family attacks, but to Rebecca Spencer's death 2 years earlier. His confession was chilling in its lack of remorse. When asked why he did it, he couldn't provide a clear answer. Craig Price was arrested just weeks before his 16th birthday. This presented a massive legal problem. Under Rhode Island law at the time, juveniles could not be tried as adults, regardless of how serious their crimes were. This meant Craig could only be held until age 21. Despite killing 4 people, he would serve a maximum of 6 years. The community was outraged. How could someone who'd committed such violent acts be released after just a few years? Citizens formed groups to lobby for legal changes. The case attracted national attention. Even President Bill Clinton weighed in, advocating for reforms to juvenile justice laws. Rhode Island passed new legislation allowing juveniles to be tried as adults for serious crimes. But these changes couldn't be applied retroactively to Craig Price. He'd beaten the system, or so it seemed. While incarcerated, Craig's behavior ensured he wouldn't be released at 21. He repeatedly got into fights, assaulted corrections officers, and violated institutional rules. Each infraction resulted in additional charges and extended sentences. In 2004, he was transferred to Florida's prison system, where he continued his pattern of violence. In 2017, Craig Price was charged with attacking another inmate. He pleaded guilty and received an additional 25-year sentence. Now in his early 50s, Craig Price remains behind bars and likely will for the rest of his life. Psychologists who've studied Craig's case point to several factors. He experienced significant challenges growing up. He witnessed violence at home. He had untreated behavioral issues from a young age. But experts also note that many children face similar circumstances without becoming violent. What made Craig different remains a subject of study. His case transformed how America handles violent juvenile offenders. It proved that age alone doesn't determine someone's capacity for extreme violence. And it highlighted the need for early intervention when children show warning signs of severe behavioral problems. Jasmine Richardson, age 12, April 23, 2006, Medicine Hat, Alberta, Canada. Police responded to a disturbing call about bodies discovered in a residential home. When they arrived, they found 3 victims, Mark Richardson, his wife Deborah, and their 8-year-old son Jacob. The violence was shocking, but what made this case even more disturbing was who was missing. The family's 12-year-old daughter, Jasmine. At first, police feared Jasmine had been taken or harmed as well. But as they investigated, a different picture emerged. In Jasmine's school locker, they found a drawing, stick figures of a family inside a burning house, and a girl running to a truck. Evidence on her computer revealed dark conversations with an older man named Jeremy Steinke. Within 24 hours, police located Jasmine and Jeremy in Saskatchewan. They were arrested together. Under interrogation, the truth came out. Jasmine and Jeremy had planned and executed the attack together. Jasmine Richardson had been a typical preteen until about age 11, when she became interested in goth subculture. She dressed in black, wore heavy makeup, and spent hours online in forums dedicated to dark themes. Her parents, Mark and Deborah, initially thought it was just a phase, but when the 12-year-old began a relationship with 23-year-old Jeremy Steinke, they became one. Jeremy claimed to be a 300-year-old werewolf. He wore a vial of what he said was blood around his neck. He was immersed in fantasy and had his own troubled background, including an unstable childhood and possible developmental issues. When Jasmine's parents discovered messages between their daughter and Jeremy discussing violent themes, they forbade her from seeing him. They took away her computer. They grounded her. But Jasmine found ways to communicate with Jeremy anyway, and her resentment toward her parents grew. In online conversations, Jasmine began expressing a desire to be free of her parents. Jeremy encouraged these thoughts. Together, they began discussing a plan. On April 22nd, the night before the attacks, they watched the movie Natural Born Killers, about a couple who go on a violent spree after the boyfriend eliminates the girlfriend's parents. The next night, Jeremy entered the Richardson home through a basement window. Witnesses later testified that Jeremy was responsible for the attacks on Jasmine's parents, while Jasmine was in her brother's room. The details of what happened to 8-year-old Jacob remain disputed, with each defendant blaming the other. After fleeing the scene, Jasmine and Jeremy were found the next day. Both were charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder. The trial raised complex questions. Jasmine was 12 years old when the crimes occurred, making her the youngest person in Canadian history to be convicted of multiple counts of murder. Could someone so young truly understand the permanence and horror of what she'd done? Was she manipulated by an older partner, or was she an active participant? The court found Jasmine guilty on all 3 counts. Because of her age, she received the maximum sentence allowed under Canada's Youth Criminal Justice Act, 10 years. with 4 years in a psychiatric facility followed by community supervision. Jeremy Steinke was convicted as an adult and received 3 life sentences. In 2016, after completing her 10-year sentence, Jasmine Richardson was released. She's now in her early 30s, living under a new identity somewhere in Canada. Canadian law protects her privacy, and her records were sealed after she served her time without reoffending. Her release was controversial. James's family believed she deserved a longer sentence. Others pointed to her young age at the time of the crimes and argued that rehabilitation should be possible for children. Jasmine Richardson's case illustrates the complexity of juvenile justice. She was a child influenced by an adult, immersed in dark online subcultures, and struggling with her own mental health. But she was also convicted of participating in the deaths of her family. Where does accountability begin? And can someone who committed such acts at age 12 truly be reformed? If you'd like to see more stories like this, make sure to subscribe and feel free to drop suggestions for the next video in the comments.
Wait, well, you're back. Goodbye for now.
The Remembrance of the Grafted is a boss item in Elden Ring obtained by defeating Godric the Grafted. It can be traded with any at Roundtable Hold for the Axe of Godric, Great Axe, or the Grafted Dragon, Fist Weapon. Alternatively, it can be consumed for 20,000 runes or duplicated at a walking mausoleum. This video shows you where to go to exchange the remembrance of the grafted. Key details and options.
Hey everyone, once you've
1. Best use. It is generally recommended to exchange the remembrance for one of the weapons rather than selling it for runes. 2. Reward 1 axe of Godric, requires high strength, 34, and dexterity, 22. Features the I command thee, kneel, skill, which creates earthquakes. 3. Reward 2 grafted dragon, requires strength, 20.
Hey everyone, once you've defeated Godric the Grafted, you get a little drop from it that's a bit confusing, so I want to talk about it here. 1,000 runes. I suggest you don't. Finger read my little screens icon on my controller, hit Y for Sites of Grace, LB, round table hold, sort of back of the table, just over here. And this is open. You may or may not get invaded here. I got invaded at some point. I can't remember when. If there's a baddie appears, give him a good slap, and then you should be able to go in here. And you will find this weird two-fingered, crusty-looking hand. And you'll find this even weirder-looking lady here with very small, crusty feet and an even crustier face. So let's talk to her. And she talks really slow, and you can see her name is these remembrance options. Receive power. You've got. It'll go down the bottom, and you can have a little look at these two different things that you can use. So you have the Axe of Godric, which would be useful if you're really super strong. Look down the bottom, though, in the middle, it says Attributes Required, and if they're in red, it means you can't wield this baby yet. So you can see it says Strength 34, my strength is puny as 23, I can't even lift this thing. Dexterity 22, my dexterity is 20, so this is not a good choice for me, I can't really use it.
You've done well. I am Enya, the Finger Reader. I interpret the words of the fingers, envoys to the greater will. Look there. The fingers tremble to welcome you, Shardbearer. Let their wisdom.
Great elden ring. Root of the Golden Order, anchor of all lands, giver of grace, wellspring of all joy. Until it was shattered, the tragic corruption of the Order has taken its toll. Across the realm, life lies in ruin, fallen to pieces. Foul curses and misery spread, unabating, but the greater will has not abandoned the realm, nor the life that inhabits it. So it is that the tarnished are guided by grace, called to act. Brave tarnished, your great rune is a handsome shard of the Elden Ring. Seek another of its kind, to become Elden Lord and restore the gold.
Let the words of the guide you. Well, I see. A remembrance of gold has found its way into your possession. Demigods and even the creator of the champions are hewn by the urge upon their end into remembrances. They are valuable indeed. These remembrances yet house the power of their former masters. And should you wish to wield that same power, well, I will lend you the strength of the fingers. Do not recoil from my offer. The fingers guide us all. And you, tarnished, you are here to take, are you not?
A better one for me is the Grafted Dragon. This will also cost me some runes. This one will cost me 2,000 runes on top, thieving monkeys. But this is a fist strike, and a bit like that weird dragon thing he had in his arm. We can use this here. And it says it will scale with, oh sorry, it doesn't say, but the attribute scaling shows strength, dexterity, and faith will scale this baby up. That kind of matches what I've got, so I'm going to go with that one. Hit A, OK, and it says, do you want to spend the remembrance and 2,000 runes to receive Grafted Dragon? I'm going to say yeah, baby. So we'll come out of there and let's have a little look. I shall go forth. So we'll have a little look in my equipment and we'll equip this baby and see what it does. So there it is. There's the Grafted Dragon that we've got. We'll put that on there. And you can see I now have a freakishly small dragon on my hand. It looks rather puny compared to Godric's one, doesn't it? I'm not sure whether I should unleash this thing in here, so I will just switch to somebody a little bit safe. Let's go to the Church of Ella and just have a little look at this and see what it does. So away we go. Now, if you remember, when you're fighting Godric the Grafted, he goes, bear witness, and that's the special move of this, so we'll have it. So we'll just run out here with the weird thing on my hand. So if I just whack it, I'm just going around with a random tiny dragon on my hand. Doesn't look very exciting, does it? But if I hit the skill button, check this out. Yeah! Now that's more like it, huh? That was pretty fearsome. Do you want to see it again? Should we see it from the front? Rah! A tiny dragon on your hand. That does look pretty cool. So that's my suggestion. And that's how remembrance weapons work. That's what you do with the remembrance of the Grafted. I hope that was useful to you. If it was, give us a thumbs up, please. That's much appreciated. Check out the rest of my channel. I've got loads of tutorials on Elden Ring, and I'm trying to cover things that are confusing in the game. Got lots of things that are very popular. See, I'm adding new ones all the time. Either hit me up in the comments for something I haven't covered already that's confusing you, or just hit that subscribe.
How is the GX of Godric?
What's up, guys? Chase the Bro here, and today we're going to used have scale R2 followed by another almost 360-degree slash. Follow to be interesting. As for the moveset of the Axe of Godric, it is pretty similar to all other great axes. It does have an interesting R2. There's a very wide swept slash for the R2 followed by another almost 360-degree slash follow-up, and you can fully charge these. They have some good poise so you can trade into your opponent because the charge is pretty long. A lot of people do run in to punish it, so you can maybe get some good damage output off of the trades. It is also a somber smithing stone weapon, so you do only have access to the I command the Neil Ash of War, but it is very fun. It's a pretty slow startup, but a pretty good AoE. So if your opponents do try to rush in and punish it, a lot of the times you're going to trade with them and do some pretty good damage output. You can choose to go for the third part of the Ash of War as well. The first two are mandatory with the initial cast, but the follow-up is up to you if you think you can land it. As for the choice of talisman, I'm going to be using the Claw Talisman. I really enjoy jump attacks in Elden Ring. Really easy to delay and get roll catches with.
How about?
So I like enhancing the damage output of that. I have the Shard of Alexander to boost all the times that I may happen to land the I command the Neil. I want some good damage output of it if I do land it. And then we have the Crimson Arrow Medallion +2 for the HP boost and the Bulgo Talisman for the poise. That's all I really have to say about the weapon though. Let's just see how it performs in the duels and then the invasions. Alright, jumping into our first match, we have Crystallian Lord. Hello there, Mr. Wizard. Well, I'm going to just anti-wizard a little bit here. Okay. Just because you will be doing big damage as it is. Oh, that's some packet loss. I'm just going to roll and hope I don't take damage. Oh, I actually dodged his damage. That's a first. Oh boy, here we go again. Oh no, well.
Great runes are the stuff of the children of the goddess, Queen Marika. She who is vessel of the Elden Ring, tainted by the strength of the her children warred, but none could become Elden Lord. And so grace was extended to your kind, the Tarnished. Listen, the finger.
The greater will has long renounced the demigod Tarnished. Show no mercy. Have their heads. Take all they hold.
But remember one thing. The demigods are each and all the direct offspring of Queen Marika, Godric the Great. Divine blood, sorely diluted. Now go forth, let the words of the fingers guide you.